Okay. All right, I'd like to call to order the Conservation Advisory Council for the town of Niskayuna. This is the December 4th, 2024 meeting. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Online, we have Chelsea Ratner, and the board in the House is Richard Frontero, Ellen Daviero, Vicky Michaela, Joy Wang, Chuck Petrowski, Ashok Ramasubramanian, Simran Uturkar, and Chairman Dart Strayer.
Thank you. Okay, we have no minutes to approve at this meeting, so let's move on to privilege of the floor. I know we have a developer here to speak, but if there's anybody else who would like to speak during the privilege of the floor about any other issue. Do we have anybody online?
We have no one, and we received no emails.
Okay, great. Then let's move on to the environmental assessment referral form. Before us, we have EAF 2024-04. It's 2339 Troy Schenectady Road. In your packet, you'll see that there's an existing service station that has two bays in the building and a small convenience store, retail store, and the applicant is asking for an increase to expand the project or the building to 4 bays and increase the retail space at the site. And really, the building is going to increase from about 1,300 square feet to about 2,000 square feet. This is in a non-conforming area. It's non-conforming project in an R1 area, so any change in use or size of building greater than 10% requires a review, and that's why the applicant's before us. So if you'd like to present to the board, you may just introduce yourself, and then the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Brian Sipperly with Verity Engineering, and here tonight with me is the applicant and owner of Niskayuna Properties 1 LLC, Mr. Harry Kingram, the operator of Harry's Mobile Service Center on 2339 Troy Schenectady Road. So thanks for having us, and good evening to you all. There was a quick summary, and if I may, I'll just kind of give you guys a more detailed summary of what the project is. I think many of you are very familiar with what this asset is on Route 7. This building has been here for approximately 72 years. Some of the records we have date back to at least 1952 with the structure being in place. The zoning, as the chair mentioned, is R1. So the use of a gasoline service station is considered a non-conforming, aka grandfathered use, subject to provisions in the zoning code that limit the growth of any non-conforming asset. That growth limitation is 10%. The property itself is just under an acre. We've got about 237 combined feet of frontage along Route 7 and about 183 feet of frontage on Onondaga Road. The gasoline service station today has 2 service bays, a canopy with 2 MPDs. We call MPDs multiple pump dispensers, so you get your regular unleaded, super unleaded type of thing, maybe diesel. So it's got 2 MPDs. And, you know, like I mentioned earlier, it was built in the 50s as a gasoline service station, functional at the time of its construction, probably for many, many years. 72 years later, that business has changed. Unfortunately, the structure has not. Topography on the site, as you guys know, it's gently sloping. It's got some slopes towards the east side and along the north where you see that retaining wall. There are no there are no closed drainage or stormwater management practices on the site. So in general, stormwater runoff gets to the neighboring tributaries via sheet flow. And the site presently has 3 access points onto the site. So 2 on Troy Schenectady Road, as you know, 1 onto Onondaga. It does have municipal connections to water and sewer, as well as private connections. And, you know, as you know, the abutters in the R1 zone are generally residential, going to be to the north and northeast. To the west, across from Onondaga, we do have a structure, as you all know, that was a gas station a long time ago. It has been converted to a professional office use via a use variance that I believe was applied in the 80s, potentially to that parcel. It's been used as a professional office ever since. And we've got some residential across the street too, for the abutters. The proposal, as Chairman pointed out, is it's a 2,000 square foot addition onto a 1,343 square foot existing building. So we are north of the 2,000 that you said. It's a little bit larger. With the addition comes the incorporation of additional service space. So 2 today will be moving to 4. We'll call it the convenience store portion. I think all of us are familiar with a lot of the battles that are happening at the big ones, right? Cumberland Farms, Stewart's, their new model. It's very big. They've got kind of, two main functions. They've got a mature type of C-store that offers a wide variety of things, as well as, many MPDs. And so we have a C-store, but we're not like that, and we're not going there. So our C-store component, called a convenience store, is a small portion in the front west. As you know, if you've ever walked in and paid for something, you saw that little area. As part of this plan, that's going to become just a little bit bigger, in addition to expanding the service areas. The MPDs of the canopy is going to remain the same. This project is really all about Harry responding to multiple components of his business. He sells gasoline. There is some appurtenant sales in the C-store, but that's not really why people come to Harry's. And of course, he does automotive service. And so, given that the building is, we call it in the commercial world functionally obsolescent. It's a building being used for what it is. But if it was to be built from ground up today, it would look different, because the needs of automotive service are just different along the way. So what the expansion is going to be able to do is to fit more modern sized, safe, 14 by 25 size service bays, where you have safe, ample room to walk around the vehicle and the lift and work on it. You got tools that are positioned. Today, it's a very, very tight environment. If you're a user of Harry's, you probably don't get invited back in to see how tight it is. But there's, some parts that they need to have as well. So this is really, there's equipment. And so this is a way to get all the functions that exist in the business to solicit a safer work environment. And again, this is, he's in the business of competing with Stewart's and Cumberland Farms, but clearly not in that business and not chasing that game, and does not desire to propose any type of footprint or competitive structure here. He's simply going after the expansion of service. Okay. What also comes along for the ride with this plan is the logical layout of parking, safe and efficient parking. So today on the site, if you've driven by, we've got one striped ADA space. It is a non-compliant ADA space, so there's no room for patrons to park. There's pavement to get out of your car and park, but there's not, it's not per zoning. So what you see here are 24-foot drive lanes, perpendicular parking, 9 by 18 stalls, and it does meet the parking requirement for gasoline service station, and that is 3 stalls per service bay, plus 1 stall for each employee, and that would be 15 stalls, and that's what we've got shown here, as well as a relocated dumpster enclosure. There will be a matching facade, so the brick facade, peaked roof, any type of residential elements that can be incorporated in the architecture can certainly be there as well. And that's really it at a high level. I think I'd like to point out to the board too, this isn't a complex project. It's more of a zoning challenge as it relates to what the use is in the underlying zoning and how do we get through the right boards to do that. But this does not include new utility connections, doesn't have traffic impacts that would need to be measured from scratch from a new development site. We are not clear cutting and mass grading. It's a real simple project. It's a 2,000 square foot addition. The complexity lies mainly in the zoning and the avenues that the applicant may have to take to get back to the planning board in order for this to move forward. So that's kind of my high level to the board. I'll open it up to any questions that you all may have.
Okay, does anybody on the board have any questions for the applicant?
before you start the project, what is the current percentage of the green space?
So it's a good question. I bet you if I walk up to that map, it's gonna be better than my eyes, if you bear with me. Laura, can you pan for me? And I'll just separate the line. Should be in the top right corner.
Because in your proposal, you wrote that the proposed project is measured to be.
Excuse me, could I just remind everyone to speak loudly into the microphone so the recording captures everything?
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, it wasn't on. So in your proposal, the green space for the proposed project is measured to be 48.7%. So I wonder, are you increasing or decreasing the current green space?
We would be decreasing the green space from current because we're adding some pavement. The building addition is going to go over the top of existing pavement, so it's kind of redevelopment from that perspective. But then to fit the required parking and access around that new envelope, we are adding some additional pavement. So the green space is decreasing slightly, but will remain in the 40s. Yep.
I have a related question to the green space. In your packet, you have a aerial picture of the site current. It's taken with the trees, leaves on it. And behind the parcel, it looks like there is, the next one, I believe.
819, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking to. So when I look at that, I see that there is a sort of a field or a green space that's filling in with trees eventually. But is the pavement, when I look at that pavement, how far is the pavement going to extend out of that envelope?
So it's a great question. Laura, if you can bounce back to the site plan. The site plan, I've got the limits of existing pavement, and I'll walk up and
Okay,
show you again.
yeah.
You can actually take that microphone with you.
Oh, I can? I didn't know if I had
No,
one.
this one, because nobody's.
Oh, that's
here
right. Last
tonight.
time we.
Yeah, but you don't even have to share it with anyone, so. Click that.
Yeah, Tom.
Thank you.
This one or the other one?
The site plan, please. Okay. I'm gonna, if you can follow my line, this is the existing edge of pavement,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And we have that in a, this is really loud, so I'm really trying to talk quiet. We have that labeled in a, shaded in a light gray. The new pavement is shaded in a little bit darker gray,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just gonna come down here. That's the only new amount of pavement. And that's where it occurs.
So if I look at the picture, then the amount of trees that you are proposing to remove would be small. Is that a correct assessment?
I'm going to go back to this, Mike. It is because there have been clearing, right, there, I was going to mention, so if you go back to the site plan again, there, you see a retaining wall. In the packet, it mentions that there was an open building permit recently renewed, and that building permit is for that retaining wall. Thank you, Laura. She'll probably put her mouse on it. It's a long linear retaining wall running east-west. Harry has substantially constructed that as of recent, okay? There was clearing and grading associated with that building permit that allowed for room and constructability around that retaining wall. The vegetation from that wall south was very minimal as you kind of went up the slope to his parking lot.
Mhm.
So what we kind of indicate, if you also look, there's a darker green and a lighter green. And Laura, to the colony side of that new parking tree there, you can kind of see how the tree line bends around, and it's kind of a good indication about where it is today.
Mhm.
There are some very mature trees. Those canopies are overhanging in that area. And so, all of the green space that you see there, Harry's intention is to continue to provide an extremely large buffer to the existing single-family residences that are there.
Okay, thank you. I have a subsequent question, and that would be on the picture that shows the lots,
The survey.
the survey, each of the individual lots, Laura.
Oh, you just went by it. You had it.
That works right there.
Okay.
So in your narrative, you said that the site consists of 3 parcels or 4 parcels. Could you just point out which parcels are owned by the applicant and which
Sure.
parcels are private?
Before I walk up, parcel 3
Mhm.
is the sub 1 acre parcel.
Yep.
Parcel 2 and 4 flank the parcel and are owned by Mr. Kingra.
Okay,
And parcel 1 is Mr. Kingra's personal residence on Cayuga Court.
okay. Thank you.
The plan is not to merge parcels 2 and 4. They remain as vacant lands. They're not part of a development plan.
Okay. So the proposed development, obviously, it doesn't appear like it will go into 4, but it will not go into 2 either?
It won't even go out of 3. It won't even go out of its own existing parcel. One important thing to note is when you, and Laura, I don't want to have to keep bouncing back to the site plan, but the town doesn't have, we haven't gotten there yet. We don't have a way to draw the correct setbacks on this parcel. We don't have the R1 use to apply. I can go to the highway commercial zone and look at where gasoline service station is allowed and apply those setbacks to the R1. But that's just me taking a stab. But no, here's what I want to communicate. No matter what we do, whose setbacks, if I take the 1 acre that's allowed for commercial development in the R1 zone and say, well, let's put those setbacks on the parcel, the development plan is still right around the building on that lot 3 that we were talking about. So we aren't, there's no unique games going on with trying to put a setback. And again, that's that sub-acre lot that's bolded there. And the development plan is just going to be very centric to the existing building.
Okay, so as far as the development plan, lot 2 and 4, other than a buffer, has no role in this decision?
They're not part of the development plan.
Okay.
Only the only proposed improvements are on 2339 proper.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
I had a general question, please. Am I audible to
I can hear.
to everyone? Okay. How long has the applicant owned this business? What's the clientele? If I remember right, there are gas stations closer to the airport, and then there are gas stations farther along towards Schenectady, and this is in between. So some history of the business, like how long have you owned it, and like what kind of clients come in and so on. I'm just trying to.
Sure. I can give the floor in a moment to Mr. Kinger, who is very intimate with running his business, but 25 years is 2007, so a little under that period. So 2007, it has been continually operated as a gasoline service center. And, you know, Harry, why don't you step up and talk to the board about just who your clients are?
I've been operating it since 2007 and consistently opening, basically closing down on holidays now that I've gotten older to let the guys enjoy their holiday and their families. Our clients are our neighbors, our immediate neighbors on the east side of Niskuna. I think that's the east side of Niskuna. So it's basically east side of Niskuna, across the street from Route 7 and all the Rosendale Estates, all the way to Godfrey, up to Balltown Road. And we get a little bit of older Niskuna too, you know, by Van Antwerp, but very few. But basically we don't advertise. So all of our clients are in our immediate neighborhood.
And when you say clients, are you referring to people who pump the gas or people who come for automobile service?
Both basically automotive.
Okay.
Automotive. And there's a lot more vehicles on the road in Niskuna now. So it's very hard to maintain all these vehicles. We only basically have 3 service centers in Niskuna. One is ours, one is Niskuna Tire, and one is Smith's by the circle on the river. So everybody has 3-4 cars in the family now. So we are being overwhelmed by vehicles, and that's why sometimes the vehicles sit in the parking lot, because we don't have sufficient room to work on them. And if you guys come down there, you'll see how very, very hard and restricted we are in our, working area to perform our job. So basically our clients in the automotive are right in our neighborhood. They go up to Avon Crest North, all the other side of Route 7, Gloucester, St. David's Lane, and then they travel all the way up to like basically Balltown Road.
Do you anticipate when you put the additional 2 bays in, what's the increase in your business?
The
What do you
business
anticipate?
is not going to use, it's going to make it more efficient for us to get the vehicles in and get them done and get them out. We'll have less parking vehicles overnight. Even if we have 3 vehicles left overnight and we can't get to them, they'll be parked inside. So it'll make it more efficient. If Laura's been up at the site, we have a lot of cars. You drop.
No, I'm familiar with
Yeah.
your site, yeah.
You drop off your car. Sometimes
Mhm.
after COVID now, parts are delayed. There's no drivers to deliver the parts. We put a car on the lift, we tear it apart, get an approval. We can't fix it till the parts come in. And sometimes we have to put the car back together and push it out.
Mhm.
So a lot of factors in that manner where we're trying to expedite them better and faster out of the facility.
Mhm. Do you anticipate hiring additional mechanics to work in your?
Probably
project?
one.
One? Okay. And how many do you have now?
I have 2 right now.
So follow-up question on the site plan right there. So this, we are the Conservation Advisory Council, right? The first word is conservation, and our first priority is conservation. And unsurprisingly, the town of Niskayuna, the thing that we hear from residents is green space and loss of green space, where the trees getting chopped down. So from that perspective, I'm speaking just for myself here, very happy that almost no big trees are going to be disturbed as part of this.
To be honest with you, it would be 3 trees, and they
Okay.
are, if you don't mind, 3 or 4, and they're not even tall. They're basically like,
Okay.
and on top by it, don't see they're in a clump of 4 trees, and in order to wait for these to be built in the parking lot, but I think those are little dangerous people pulling back and out. So those are the only 3-4 trees that we're talking about.
So, and moving forward, and this is a standard ask that we ask for all new proposed developers. Moving forward, would you consider protecting the existing green space via a deed restriction or a conservation easement or some other mechanism that protects the green space that is left over after your expansion is completed?
I think we're so far early on. Oh, thank you. We're so far early on in the process that we have a very tall order to some other boards to be awarded the ability to come back to planning to plan, and then to get the improvement to then build such thing. I don't want to speak for Harry, but I do want to point out to the board that I think Harry and I, as his consultant, are aware that, well, what are you going to do with the rest of the property, right? This is already a tall ask, and so, what would be the liability or anything to the owner for considering such a thing? I want to let you step in. There's a lot to that. Yeah.
We're going to be actually.
So if I might have an offline conversation, so what they're really saying is so let's say you're done and the grading's the grading and you get approval for it. Everything that's green, that's remaining. What the board's saying is, would you be willing to never touch it again via a deed restriction? So you sell the property.
Yeah.
Right? The next person that buys the property, right, there'd be a
They're
legal
gonna-
deed
yeah.
restriction, right? Now, that's what they're asking. So we don't know what it looks like yet, so it's hard for us to put a meets and bounds around something that we may need later on in the planning process. But I think it's going to be a personal decision, understanding what the future land use is. And
Yeah, I can maybe clarify Ashok's question or maybe add what I think part of the concern of is that, you develop your project, you get permission to develop the way that you need to develop it within the confines of what we're talking about. And there could be minor changes and stuff like that. I think where the concern of the board comes from is 10 years down the road, when maybe you've retired, or 20 years down the road when you've retired, and someone else comes into the property and then comes to the board and says, hey, I really need to add another 2,000 feet onto the property to make it viable. There is a creep here. There is a potential creep down the road as far as impacting the neighbors. And I think you're making a case today that there's a business need to expand this property. I understand that there is a business need, but we have to balance the needs of the applicant with the needs of the community, the town, and some of the objectives here. So that's where part of this question is coming.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I'm stuttering because there's a lot of thoughts, right? But clearly the comp plan didn't spot zone this in 2013 or any prior versions of a plan that would have respected the current land use over 70 years, right? So what does that tell you? It tells you that the town doesn't want it to be highway commercial. It doesn't want to have the underlying zoning to support it. If we are granted the ability to build 34 total 100 square feet, the town doesn't want the ability for 10% to come back down the road, right? So I think we get that. And we get that if we are granted the ability to construct these improvements, I don't want to openly say, but there's kind of got to be the understanding that's it, right? And I think how is that it? It probably has to come through not allowing another applicant down the road, another title owner who is going to forget this when this board is gone, to understand that that was very, very important piece of being able to get this project to where it is. So I can't commit that this is not my property. Harry would be, but I don't know if you're open to something like that.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I wouldn't mind putting that in there, okay? If we can get to that point.
So
we need to get to that point.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
clear.
yeah, so I think the
Yeah.
message to this board is, I think I heard yes. When that would finally come out would be the final green space after planning and grading, and says this is what we need to support the project. The rest of it is Harry will be willing to deed restrict it for future development.
And understand, I do live right on the corner of that property.
Yep.
So I wouldn't want to, I would want to enhance the growth of plants.
Right,
Does
right.
that?
So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to roundabout you, but it was a very loaded question early on, but I think we talked about it, and I think the answer is, we'd be open to it.
Yeah, and again, I'm speaking for myself. Like, it's important to support small business owners in this town. And the point about Cumberland Farms, like that's not a small business, right? So in this case, with the site plan as proposed, the business case is pretty convincing to me. And my colleague Joy Wang just asked about the percentage reduction and all that. And the property owner showed like, okay, no more than 4 trees, that about yay big, like, and the environmental impact, at least in my opinion, is minimal. And where me and Chairman Strayer are coming from is like, again, balancing the needs of the community as a whole. And the town is simultaneously doing this comprehensive planning for the 2033 plan. So, and we surveyed the residents, and preservation of green space is like bang, number one. Like everybody is concerned about trees disappearing and green space disappearing. So as this committee evaluates development proposals, it's a standard ask that we've asked of a lot of developers. Like if you go back and watch video of this, like you will find one of us talking about deed restrictions to a lot of developers. So no offense is meant, or
I think it goes a long way, to be honest with you, right? Because further on in the process through zoning and planning, I'm going to first say that we have got to get to a lot of emotional objections before we talk about objectivity in this process. But, there are people that will run around and say, more is just going to equal more mess. That's not what we want. If we had a tool that said, we want, although it looks awful on paper at 138% growth on an area variance, the project in totality is pretty small, and it might be very impactful to commit to the remaining green space buffer for the balance of the R1 residential in-place single-family structures around here. That may go a long way. So I think that in this one situation, I think it's a win-win. So.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? No?
Yeah, hi, so thanks. So, so I just, want to clarify that that the two is an is R1, so that's a residential zoning.
Low
So
density R1, yeah.
Yes.
Low res.
It has all the proper, and it is big enough to put a home on. So it could be sold off for a home.
It could be, so, this is one of the things we talked about. This is a gas station for 72 years. From a commercial real estate perspective, the residents of Niskuna have to face some pretty tough options if this was to sunset. Sunset meaning something were to happen to Harry, current operator. No one can step in within, is it a year? No one steps in it for a year. The family wants to liquidate the estate and the assets, and you will get under a number of use variances, a number of applicants that try to use that for what it is. Okay, from a real estate strategy, it will always be tried to use as a gas station prior to what we call it being a scrape site. It'll be a scrape site for another commercial R1 use, my opinion, well before it becomes a scrape site with the financial market surrounding for it to be a single family home. Be very expensive to remove tanks, fill
Yeah,
back with
I
structural fill. But it can be, absolutely. It's an anything R1 that can fit in that lot with the right market dynamics is a safe way to put that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understood that. I guess what I was saying is that the number 2, I'm not talking about the gas station. I'm talking about just 2.
Which two? Oh, lot 2?
Lot
Oh,
2.
I'm sorry, lots. Excuse me.
Sorry.
So the colony side of that separate lot there.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so lot 2 is large enough to, is R1, so it is a piece, it is large enough to put a piece of, a house.
So
Number
4.
2.
Oh, number 2. Oh, yeah,
two.
number 2 would be a single family building lot. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So it is a residential and could be sold as that, so.
Absolutely. I thought you were talking about 3. I'm sorry,
No.
ma'am.
No.
Yep.
Okay, and then, so that is, is part of the discussion. But the other thing, and then I just wanted to say that I really appreciated the reference for lighting to make it, dark sky compliant. And that, I know that they're gonna be on your buildings, but that they'll be, I assume that what you meant was that they'll be on timers so that the lights will go off, or?
Right now, the lights are on the building pointed.
Yes, yeah, I drive by it, yeah.
You drive by, okay. So when we redo this and we get the proposal passed, our goal is to light it the other way, towards the building into the parking lot,
Okay,
at a very lightly dim.
yeah. I mean, because you can clearly see that there are other parts of Niskuna where people have built, and that the lighting is very bright, and it makes it, and we lose our night sky from it, and it bothers the.
We're gonna try to work all that into our proposal.
One of the other,
And be respectful for that.
one important thing to note would be you do have 2 pole mounted LEDs from my understanding too. One on each end. So
Yeah, but they're not very bright at
They're
night.
not worried about it, they just point down.
They just
Yep.
point down, and they're, yeah, no, I drive by
I
it
think
at
the
night, I
one
see
you're
it.
talking about
So,
are in the back.
Yeah.
So we're gonna reposition them and re-angle them and then use the proper lighting that, the planning board will,
Yep.
approve or zoning.
Okay.
So to your point, right, the benefit of being able to go through planning would be new lighting, the right appropriate pole mounted heights for the residential zone, LED fixture, sharp cutoff, dark sky with a photometric plan that would prove the light is supposed to be intended for the right areas. All the right things that would come through bringing a project through the planning process, yes.
So yes, I would say that, yes, but I would say that from a CAC point of view, that even some of the lighting that is approved through, can I say this? I don't even know.
Yeah, you can. I
So-
mean, it is.
So through the planning, like if you drive over to Riverside,
River's
to
Ledge.
to River's Ledge, where all those apartments are, that is, like a shopping mall at night. Like it's so bright over there. That,
Restaurant over there?
It-
no,
it-
all the new apartments. So.
If it's done, it's interesting because you never know whether,
by the Rexford Bridge.
Yeah. You
Oh,
never,
okay, the new development back
Right,
there,
like if
okay.
you drive, if you're
Okay.
driving over Rexford Bridge at
Yeah,
night,
and
it's-
Aqueduct Road.
and yeah, and you
Okay.
comes over that bridge, that lighting is significantly different
Yeah.
than you driving up Route 7 going past.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes when I'm driving past yours, I'm like, is he open? Is he open? I'm not sure if he's open still. So, based on that, so, but.
point taken, but thank you, Ray. Yes, all the intentions would be, you don't stick up lighting.
Well,
um,
I mean, the added benefit is that you're behind it. So
Yeah.
it's you that will bear the brunt.
That's the thing, I mean, number one is mine.
Yes,
right?
no,
So,
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
why I'm saying
All
that's,
those, I mean,
it
before
affects
they
you.
affect anybody, it's gonna affect me, so I'm gonna implement everything that I can.
Yes, that's why
That if they
yeah.
satisfy me, I'm obviously they're gonna satisfy the people that are, a couple of blocks away.
Okay.
So in your project description, you said the addition is going to be brick. You're going to match the brick.
Facade matching, that's correct.
Okay. And is that going to be around the entire building, or are you going to use a different material in the back of the building?
I don't think we have a north elevation. At the moment, we've got more of the elevation from Onondaga
Yep.
and a south elevation.
Mhm.
The current rear of the building, I believe, is a white facade right now, correct?
It's
So I
it's
don't-
a block.
It's like a block. It looks like it's a block
Yeah,
of some
cinder
sort.
block, and then it's. we
Painted,
it.
okay. So,
Currently, it's cinder block, you're
It's
saying?
cinder block.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
so there's the,
So I'm looking at
Here,
your
the north right
description
now.
there. Is
Yep,
is that
brick.
going to be brick, or are
Brick, it
you
is
doing
brick.
block
Yep.
on that?
Yeah, we'll, if,
You brick it?
if whatever the planning board
Okay.
presents us with, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, I think one of the objectives of the board is, if this project goes forward, we want to make sure that it is harmonious with the neighborhood while providing the service to the community. So that's a very important feature of this, and that goes into maintaining trees, maintaining the site. As far as the cars, it looks like the cars will be more organized, so they'll be neater on the site. Is that the true assessment?
absolutely.
Okay.
So if you can put that,
Site plan?
the site plan on,
The last
I
last
will,
one.
but
Oh,
you
That one?
Yeah,
Basically, what's gonna happen.
Actually, let me show.
Bring the microphone with you, Harry. It's right there. Grab that little one. Yeah, bring it with you.
Along those. So, it's retaining wall, show them that there's gonna be.
I'm going to show you a different exhibit, but I just want you to pay attention. So Laura, haven't seen it yet, but this is the 10%.
Oh, okay.
Okay, where Clark had said, can you screen some stuff, right? And so what I want to and you guys can pass this down. Don't worry about how this exhibit looks different. The planning board asked us to produce a plan on how the site would look if we were to only max the growth at 10%. That's this site plan. But what this site plan has, and just because this one doesn't have it, doesn't mean we weren't indicating that we weren't proposing landscaping, but we're such at an early infancy of the project that showing light poles and landscaping is more just a placeholder for where it's really going to be in full design. But what Harry is mentioning here, and I'll go ahead, I'll point, is he's got a slope from the top of this retaining wall up to this parking lot.
Mhm.
And one of the comments before was, how can you screen it? So if we're, again, allowed the opportunity to get to planning and just open up the landscape component, one of the things would be, can we put an island here to block some of the scars? Can we put a double row of arborvitae on that slope to help prevent and some screening to the other residents? I'll let you pass this down, but Harry wanted to point out when and if we get a chance to present a mature landscaping plan, it would certainly fill in the gaps, providing other deciduous trees that could get filled in the area, and also screen parking if we can, and screen the rear of the property from any neighboring properties.
Yeah, no, that certainly would be helpful.
Did that answer your question? Okay.
Chelsea, you're online. Do you have any questions? I don't want to ignore you.
Oh, no, you're good. I was more focused on just how it would impact just the neighborhood. So you guys have been keeping up with me. So I am good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have one comment and one question. So you talk about some good anticipated impact, both to the business and serving the immediate neighborhood, which is great. So my question is, in your introduction and in the proposal, you mentioned that the parcel slopes towards the north and the west side, and storm waters flows into the neighborhood and street. And you mentioned that no closed drainage system exists, and you are not proposing changing to the pattern. So would that be a plus or minus or neutral? So I feel that since you are going to do some project, wouldn't it be nice to do something to the drainage?
So yeah, that's a loaded question. So let me try to break that down. Thank you for the comment. A project like this has to have constraints. And what I'm going with that is if a site like this, let me unpack this, right? So when we're normally dealing with projects that are greater than an acre that require post-construction stormwater management practices via the implementation of a SWIP, those projects come along for an increase or an improvement in water quality, right? It's not even it's a requirement, but it's not even that the town just gets it when they have it. The more projects that are greater than an acre happen in and around you, the more redevelopment projects, the more that all of that rainwater that was flowing and sheet flowing is now being captured and treated, right? It's a good thing as development happens under that threshold, right? Or over, should I say, over that threshold. We're trying to stay under that threshold, right? Not because we're anti-environment or anti-anything with permits. It's just that this site to this board would look extremely different if we had to rip it up and become compliant to stormwater for what would be deemed as a hot spot by DEC. If that was going to happen, all the economics of the project would look different. It wouldn't be worth just doing a 2,000 square foot addition because the improvements for the stormwater would eclipse what the guy wants to do to make money. So a lot of what you see in those projects are the economics of that is also baked into it. So there's a number of different things with hydrology when we look at closing a drainage system too, right? So we can't really impact hydrology when we do these things, right? So if I pipe something and get it somewhere faster, I may be causing a downstream problem that we don't really want to quantify, aren't required to quantify. And you start getting into other things. It sounds good. Let's just put it in a pipe, but there may not be a way to treat it and discharge it. So I'm not coming, we're not subject to the SWIP. We don't have to look at the development as it relates to that. But it is our job to maintain existing drainage patterns, right? So we will look at the impact, and we don't flow to local streets, right? A lot of what's going to sheet flow is going to sheet flow over land into tributaries. They're generally an unnamed tributary to the Leishakill Creek. We would take a look at how the planning board wants us to deal with the increased impervious, but I will tell you we are under the required threshold to implement that. And I don't know what else we would do, but I think we're open when we get to the planning stage on how we could improve the drainage, or at least capture what we are adding potentially. So I think we're open to that, Laura, when we get it, when and if we can get to the planning stage. I hope that answers your question, but it's a big one to take this site and completely convert it to be compliant with a speedies permit.
So just, excuse me, just to follow up. So to summarize, there'll be more water going into the same existing draining system.
There will be slightly more water because we are increasing impervious, right? So your town code, for example, allows this to happen in a number of different scenarios, especially single family houses under half an acre. They can get built all day long without a SWIP. If you build 100 of those, you're going to have an aggregate problem. And the hope is that smaller commercial projects that do fall under this aren't the ones that are exact. Cities have this problem more than anything because there are a lot of parcels that are under a quarter acre. You see a lot of development and no implementation of quantity control or stormwater quality control.
I got it. Thanks. So there's more water coming, and that more water is going to go into Leishakill.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, Niskayuna doesn't let single family homes get built without a rain garden nowadays. Like if they're putting in a driveway and they're putting in a roof, they're putting in collection systems and figuring something.
You may have changed the code. You do have something in the R1 zone under 1/2 an acre that we've
When
done
we look
recently.
at new building permits, our code requires that you can't increase drainage off the property from existing. So if you're adding impervious, even for a single family home, you're figuring out a way to not increase the drainage off the property.
I'm not going to disagree. There was one we just did on Pierce Road that fell under the threshold for, and we were surprised.
You don't have to do a SWIP, but you do have to figure out what your increase of impervious is, and you do have to capture that.
So you do have a hydrology code that you can't alter hydrology. So if
Absolutely.
there's, so then to your point, if we will take a look at that hydrology, small analysis, if we're allowed to at that stage of planning. And if we had to provide mitigation, really what is it? It's a write-up on the effect to the drainage point, right? If we look at it and we write up that it has no net effect, it won't have any net effect. If it does, we'll provide some type of quantity control as per the code would require to have no downstream effects.
And if I may follow up on that. So, and this is, I know you guys don't have a specific answer, and, you know, I think it's a great station. It's a great service to the community. But could we expect that additional water running into the existing drainage system be potentially more oily, gassy, if you're using the additional pavement for storage of vehicles that are under repair?
Well, and that's a loaded question too. Why? Because, you know, that's why the stormwater regs exist, right? Is because the first flush, right? All the contaminants on the road, when it rains, the concern is they run into the water bodies, right? So that's exactly what the premise of the Clean Water Act is, and some of the stormwater implementations that help do it. We would argue here that, well, a couple things, right? So a car leaking at cross gates could have the same effect on its stormwater system, unfortunately. These are the small corner cases that do exist. So could there be a leaky car on that area? Yeah, absolutely. Could there be a car that pulls away with the gas nozzle still in their car over there? Yes, they can. Where our additional impervious is, I would like to, our new proposed impervious would generally be cars in inventory. It isn't the hotspot area. We're not working on cars. We're not changing oil over there. We're not pumping gas. So if anything, the water is going to generally sheet flow back to kind of where it does today. Or if anything, there'll be a break point on that new impervious to pitch it a different way, looking at where it is today. But I don't want to paint a picture that nothing bad can ever happen in the society and the controls that we have today. And I guess it would be prevalent or could happen here or at any gas station. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is there any comment from neighbors thus far?
Yes. We've got a lot of comments. We won't lie. There are a number of people in the surrounding communities that would like to see no change. There are a number of people that have come out in a recent meeting suggesting they would love to see change. The challenge of the zoning board of appeals and the planning board is going to try to be to balance these challenging things that are the comp plan, the area variance is required, the benefit to the applicant and the community weighed against the detriment to the community. So, you know, we're not going to lie. There's certainly a lot of people that have come out and they would like to see this remain what it is. And, you know, they're entitled to that opinion. And they've been present at the meetings and providing their input as interested residents should be. So, yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Are we doing the EA?
No, so this is an introduction to the project. It's probably going to change significantly if it comes, well, it may not, but it'll have a lot more detail if it comes back to you. You have the EAF to review. I think you're hearing that deed restricting the open space or preserving the existing open space in some way is always important to this committee. We look at dark skies. We're looking at harmonious with neighborhood, and this is just my opinion, but this board is not the only board that's looking at whether or not this project will be harmonious to the community. I think that landscaping buffers are very valuable to Ellen's point. Lot number 4 could easily become a single family home in the future.
Lot number 2.
Lot number 4
No,
3.
on Onondaga.
I thought that was one.
Oh, you're referring
No.
to the actual lot
Yeah.
number, not the numbers that we
No,
saw.
on the numbers on the screen. It's number. Oh, lot number 2. Yeah, okay, you're right.
Lot number 2.
Yeah, lot number 2. So, like, to me, I wouldn't hesitate to put landscaping buffers, even though they're general, on the plot plan now. It shows that you're thinking about mitigating things to the neighborhood. I don't know why you would leave that off. Like if you've got a plan, I mean, there's the existing retaining wall right now kind of has like a road in front of it. Like my, recommendation would be to even put in the plan that that's going to be grassed over, that's going to be landscaped, show that that whole thing will be returned to forest someday. Just because we know that the actual the bigger forest buffers on either side of this property don't necessarily have to stay. So you really have to keep the buffers on the property here. You're doing that on the property. I would highly suggest adding them before the planning board and the zoning board. That's just my.
Yep, duly noted, which is why it was on that plan, and anything that we provide in the future, Laura, will show what our intent is, even if it slightly changes through full design. It's that the intent of the applicant is, to do the best they can. He lives in the area. He's hearing the feedback. He doesn't, I think I'm speaking for you, but you know that proposing a Cumberland Farms here would be disastrous to the character of the neighborhood. So I think Mr. Kinger is in full understanding that he wants to be able to implement landscaping. And I think it was just more of a comment that when we do these things, like we know as consultants, we've got to comply to a landscaping plan and go through and provide. Early on, we're trying to stay high level about the whole thing, right? With the understanding that like absolutely the landscaping will fill in. So we don't want to lose sight of that. But if you think it helps, Laura, we'll throw it on there so that everyone sees how we're intending right now at this stage to do that. Sure.
I think it's always better on paper, even if it has to change, because it shows that you're planning it and you're showing it and you're committing to it. And if, the location of the trees change, but you understand that there will need to be buffers and that you've thought about them and you're putting them on paper. The other thing I did want to mention is that this board develops a list of things that they look for in projects, which it's not complete, but we could email to you. Because this project is so early, you don't have a lot of that in there, and that's understood, but it might be good for you to be thinking about this list so that when you return, when we're looking at impacts of new buildings and stuff like that, we always ask for energy efficient fixtures. We have solar panels. Can you add new solar panels if you're adding in a new roof? Like we've got, I can email to you. Oh, like if you're adding parking spaces, can you add EV charging to your parking spaces? Or the infrastructure, the landscaping should be native. Can you do pesticide-free treatments on your property? There's just a number of things protecting the existing trees that since you're so early on, you can be thinking about it, and it's an asset to your project if you start incorporating it now. And I highly, highly recommend that if you're adding impervious surface, that you figure out a rain garden or some kind of general stormwater practice to the right of that would be something on site, because you can plant it with, we see this all the time. We just looked at it at 1356 Balltown Road. You can plant those rain gardens with, local flowers and make pollinator friendly habitats. You're catching stormwater, you're meeting the goals of the CAC, and you're getting your benefit. So I recommend adding some details like that to your project.
Noted.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I wasn't going to say this because it's not strictly a CAC sort of issue, but since you mentioned sort of suggesting ways of making this maybe more likely to become approved, because I do think it's a good use, an expansion would be a good thing. I was wondering, I know you did mention that the convenience store would be small and you weren't looking to put in a Cumberland Farms, but to maybe think a little bit outside the box when you do decide what type of products you offer. Think about maybe local products, things that are more natural, not the typical products that you find in a convenience store that's so unhealthy, because I think that would be an asset to the area, to have a store that is more different than, like an all town. Well, that's great.
We don't, like if you go to other stations and you'll see probably 40 to 50% of their product in their stores is smoke related. And my facility is not going to become a stop smoke shop. It's not. Because I have 3 children and I preach to them not to have a healthy lifestyle. And that's what I preach to, people that I come in contact with. So it's not going to turn into A smoke shop, absolutely not.
But even beyond that, I mean, like you do see,
Yeah.
even in the other, stores that don't necessarily sell cigarettes or vaping things, they do sell a lot of junk food. So
Yeah.
that's just sort
We'll
of
try
what
to
I'm
do,
kind of just
Yeah,
putting that out there. And of
absolutely.
course,
absolutely.
that's a decision that has to be made down the road.
Okay, are there any other questions from members of the board? Oh, is there? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation and answering our questions. And we'll see you again when the project is more complete.
So the expectation from here, Chairman Laura, can you help us understand? We'll come back with some revisions, incorporate some checklist items, but the goal of the next meet, when do you?
So, yeah,
see
so
it?
let me explain the process a little bit. The role of this board is to make a recommendation per the seeker requirements of New York State. So what we need to do is we need to look at the environmental impact of this project on the town of Niskayuna. And that's a fairly broad interpretation with the state law.
Mhm.
So environment means environment impact, like water drainage and stuff like that. Some of the questions there, lighting impacts, utilities, traffic. No, I'm not saying that these are issues right now. I'm just saying that this is what we look at. We also look at how it fits in with the comp plan and the impact to the character of the neighborhood. So this board looks at projects very holistically under the seeker requirements. And then what we do is we make a recommendation, and there's 3 ways that the recommendation can go. It can have a negative deck, which means that there's no impact for this project, and it can move forward. We recommend it moves forward. There can be a positive deck saying that there are substantial impacts, and we require you to do some additional work to mitigate them. Or it can be a recommendation with comments, and then usually it's like a negative declaration with comments, and those comments specifically address things that the board feel could have an impact, but with easy fixes that could be mitigated. So like, for example, you take the water issue. I'm not saying that this is the way it would be, but for example, putting in a water garden may mitigate a concern that this board had with water management. That would show up in a comment. Buffering would probably show up in a comment. So that would be the three possible outcomes from this board. So we have to make a recommendation on this project, and so does the planning board.
Okay, so you don't make the seeker, you don't classify the action and make the determination. You're going to assess and provide a recommendation.
Yes,
positive,
and the
negative,
planning
or
board
comments.
will make the ultimate decision on that. But the
Thank you.
planning board generally focuses more on the nuts and bolts of the particular project. Our role here is more, like I said, more the holistic impact on the environment and the surrounding areas. So the focus of the boards are slightly different, but we do work with the board.
Excellent.
Planning board.
Great. Well,
And
thank
as
you
I
for hearing
mentioned,
us.
like, conserving green space is an important priority for us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for explaining that. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Look forward-
it's complicated.
Well, no, we look forward to hearing you back. We look forward to seeing you back
Yep.
and providing that necessary information that you want to see and review that gets yourselves closer to the job you do, which is the recommendation. So,
And
you.
supporting small business is important. So thank you for taking the time and, addressing us in this
Great.
evening time.
thank you. Thank you for your time. Good evening.
Okay. Laura, we had some discussion items on the docket, but we didn't have any documentation on that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Sorry,
I-
I should have put that in reports actually. I just wanted to let you guys know that 1356 Balltown Road, the recommendation that you made was, adopted essentially by the planning board. They did the seeker determination with the neg deck, incorporated those conditions from your memo. Hi, Simran. So they are looking at potential preliminary approval of that project at their next meeting with a lot of conditions.
1356 is the,
CBS.
Yeah,
CBS.
between
Next
WRTD
to
and
CBS.
CBS, yeah.
okay.
So the deeding the open space to the town, the trees. There was a number of things in there.
The path.
The path, yep, all of that's in there. Yep.
Great.
And then I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that you'll likely be seeing an addition at Momentive. I mean, they're in a different zoning, but a good amount of addition to Momentive in January of 2025. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Clark?
No, I think that's good, other than I think they're taking a portion of one building down and adding, constructing a new building.
So in addition to driving.
And I don't believe any of it will be really visible from Balltown.
Yeah. So I would drive past Harry's, get a feel for the site if you don't know it very well. And then we'll get more information for an EAF review to you guys. And then if you're driving down Bolton Road, just take a look at Momentive if you're not driving.
So is anything known about the impact on forests on the new Momentive large construction?
I think they're just redeveloping their existing footprint. They're probably not actually even changing impervious.
Okay.
Because like Clark had said, I think some buildings come down and new buildings will go up. But we'll know more when we get that site plan in January.
Excellent.
And can I just ask a question about the feedback from the community on the property for the Troy Schenectady Road? Is that, were they submitted to the planning board?
Yeah, if you guys want, I can send you the.
Yeah, I would like to see.
Yeah, I can send that to you.
Thank you.
It's definitely split. A lot of public. I think we had about 2 hours of public comment on the planning board meeting.
I was going to mention that too, Laura. I think it's fair to say that there's been a very significant public comment, and there's been quite a bit on both sides, pro and con, but there's been a large amount of public comment.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's a little surprising to me that the public probably doesn't understand that like our body is also a good place to provide feedback.
It is.
Yeah.
Sometimes the CAC room fills up. That's actually why I sent you that email. I wasn't sure if we'd have 40 people in this room. We could have. Yeah.
How were the comments collected?
So they will speak into the microphone, so you can listen to. There's a number of people who don't send written comments and they just come to the microphone under privilege of the floor. But there is a number of comments that come from emails and letters, and there's actually a postcard campaign both for and against. So we receive a number of postcards each day with people who point out reasons they would not want to see an expansion, which has a lot to do with the Route 7 corridor, not wanting to increase commercial there, not wanting to set precedents with use variances and things like that. And then there's the postcards that are for the business, that he's a good track record business. You really can't operate the way that he has there anymore and compete. So they're they have little bullet points. They'll be in what I email you. The only thing I can't email you is the spoken comments under privilege of the floor. If you want to see those, I can include the link to the planning board meeting.
Yeah,
you can watch the video.
Right?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, you can Google Town of Niskayuna.
Yeah, so it's going to be the November
planning board meeting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
I
it
think-
was before the planning board, so I hadn't.
Yeah, I think November 18th, I believe, was the date.
Okay.
The 21st is solely 1356 Balltown Road. So it was the first meeting in November, not the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for context, I mean, this applicant is unique, but it's not unique for an applicant to come before the board in a non-conforming use and ask for our recommendation. Happens a fair amount of time. And the board has approved some and really not disapproved others, and it really depends on the project itself. So, this isn't really an unusual request. Maybe a gas station is, but it's not outside the norm. And really,
Yeah,
the merits of the project really will dictate how we vote.
Yeah, some of you guys are newer and some of you guys were here for for instance, the Alex Ritmill building on Balltown Road that was the vet building. And that now is a actually pretty nice apartment building. That was the same type of non-conforming building that needed the expansion of use. Although in that particular instance, he was taking 2 non-conforming uses and making it down to 1. So that was kind of a mitigating factor in that review that you guys did. But you have seen the
Yeah, I was thinking of the Niskuna veterinarian.
on Route 7.
That was actually a very similar situation where a vet had practiced there for a very long time, was retiring, but in order to bring on a new vet and sell the business, the vet needed to expand the footprint of the building because veterinarians have changed, the whole business has changed. And the board looked at that, and after several iterations, the board did approve it with minimal impact on the footprint, but I don't think it's ever been built. So, but you know, that's an example. And then there's been others where we've just basically said no. So,
Yeah, with the use variance, there really have to be some mitigating factors. That isn't something that you guys have to look at. Like Chairman was saying, you really want to look holistically at the drainage and the impact of the community and what can be done to mitigate the environmental impacts. But they will really look at what's the precedence and what is the mitigating factors on the use variance request and that kind of thing.
now we will have to make a recommendation to both the planning board and the ZBA.
I believe it's better if you guys do it that way.
Okay.
But you know, at a bare minimum, you have to do the planning board because if it gets the variances, it always goes back to planning board for site plan review.
So as far as scheduling, how do you think this project's progressing?
So they have not submitted their appeal yet, so they will not. Well, they're not on the December meeting. The earliest meeting they could possibly be on would be January, probably more likely to be February.
Okay.
So you have at least next meeting to make a recommendation to the zoning board, and then you know even one more meeting theoretically for
Yeah,
planning.
one thing I think that was clear from the questions is we need to see more details.
Yeah. I understand it's always like a balancing act for the developer because they don't want to invest a lot in engineering if they're not going to get their variances. But I think it's hard to convince the zoning board to grant the variances if you don't have the detail to show that you're willing to do stormwater mitigation and landscaping buffers. To me, and it's just me because the developers have the right to take whatever case they want to take to the boards, but having the detail helps your case. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we want to discuss this anymore? Or? Okay. Let's move on to greenhouse gas emissions inventory. Where do we stand on that, Laura?
So I was speaking with our consultant, Jim Younger, about this actually just a little bit before Thanksgiving. I went on vacation and now he's on vacation. So we will reconvene on that, well, probably right before Christmas, but more than likely January.
Okay.
There was a question I raised, Laura, about the, the emissions that could be saved by doing LOMO.
Mm-hmm. He said he could do that for you.
Yeah, he said he could do
You want me
that.
to follow up with him again?
Yeah, I would, because, with so many places piloting LOMO or thinking about piloting LOMO, this would be a very useful data point to have.
Yeah, he seemed to think he had a good data point that he could,
Mhm.
so he just needs to get that to us.
Okay, do we have anything to report about the natural resource inventory?
Yes, Jim yesterday emailed me the finished reports.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and here on the hard drive. I will send it all to you tomorrow. It's, I haven't read through it, but a first glance suggests that it's good. But we do need another meeting with the funding agency.
Yeah, but you want me to get the DEC person
Yeah,
for
the
that, right?
DEC person, so that we can convene a meeting and say we have achieved our objectives. And we are very grateful to them. And of course, we will be knocking on their doors pretty soon for phase 3. So,
Excellent.
Yay!
so
I'm on it.
so yeah, they did say that once the project is up and running, keep us in the loop, but then Kathy retired and we didn't know who Kathy's replacement was. So yeah, we do need to do that. And I'd like to get that done either before the new year or soon after.
I would like to do it before the new year if you think you have the time.
Yeah, I can
Because
find the time.
I know my finance department would like me to close out the invoices if possible this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to see it. I'm hoping we can use some of it for the comp plan.
Yeah, to my eternal shame, that is something that I have to do. Take the NRI recommendations and weave it into chapter 4, the open spaces chapter. but,
That was not a needle.
okay, and
No, you and I were both going to do that.
well,
Remember?
then it's Laura
That's
and
not-
my eternal shame. Like
No.
we don't get points. We get
Okay.
deducted points.
I didn't mean it for that way. I'm actually, okay, why don't we move on? Okay, ongoing initiative, the land preservation tools. I did have that list, which I submitted, but I do need to clean it up. So
You don't get any points.
I don't get any points either. I'm hoping to get that done to meet our January deadline for the comp plan. It's a goal. Pesticide outreach.
Not too much.
Not too much, nothing, no news.
Okay,
I mean,
it's winter.
it's winter.
I mean, I guess like it's just a good ongoing program. We could take it off of our list, but it is an
No, I
ongoing
think we
program.
should just
Yeah.
I think you
continue
just
it.
leave it there,
Yeah.
just don't expect,
Big
like
update.
bells and whistles.
I mean, it's
think
working
yeah.
slowly.
And so, but I will go jump into the Lomo. So I
Yeah.
sent, Laura, can you pull up that email that I sent you like on the 19th or something, or the 20th?
With the
With all the pictures?
yeah.
So, Nick, from Schenectady Soil and Water, he put down so much compost. He put so much compost down. I was so excited. And then when I opened up the box, I was like so sad because I was like, it was all mixed together. I thought we ordered 2 different types.
No,
Is it
I did
mixed?
order an extra pound of the wildflower seed that I took out of my planning, but I think
Okay,
it was
so-
5 pounds of perennial wildflower seed.
Okay, so, anyways, I got the seed, he sent it to me, had the seed in my car, and then Nick texted me, said he had dropped the compost. I went up there and right after it rained, I planted it all, then it rained again, and then it snowed, so I think it's good to go. But there's a lot, and then I sent an email to Laura and Nick and Trisha and Ray
What?
just to.
I wonder if it bounced out.
You have it
No.
on November 22nd.
Yeah, I was looking.
Are you want me to forward it to you or something?
Yeah, if you want to show the pictures, can you try
Yeah,
one more
I
time?
do. Do you mind?
Yeah.
Because
So luckily, Ellen took the wildflower seeds from me before I went on vacation, so she could do all of that.
so they all got down, and then and then you can see in them I kind of mapped out where I put them.
Yeah, so we can update. We're keeping an updated Lomo map, and
Yep.
we're keeping track of the seeds that we put down.
Yeah. So, and then hopefully, I don't know anyways. And then I just, I'm hoping that we can take down some of the Lomo signs actually, because they're so far into where the growth is that you can't really see it. So maybe we'll just pull them out. It's obviously not like a high priority, but I'm hoping that.
You want to move them forward?
Maybe we
Yeah.
could like attach them to the split rail fence. Oh yeah,
So we
they're
have
there.
a bunch to the, we have one along the split rail fence. These are the ones that are inside on the pathway. So yeah.
Oh, here they are.
So, yeah, So that sign, is the one, like the very first one, and off to the left is the driving range. And then, so this is all the compost that he put down. Like that. That's a lot. He did the whole thing.
That is way more than he did before.
I know, so you can see the top, the top left.
Mhm.
We had done 1 year, we did 1 year, and then and then he also did a portion on the right
Yeah, I think.
and up there, and we had done that, and then this part right here, we hadn't done yet, but I didn't have enough seed to do it, but in front of this small section on the left, we had done. And then, so I did from on the right-hand side, and you can see in the next picture what I did. I just dropped it all, like I took a picture from where I started all the way up to there. And then you can see on the right-hand side, that's all growth.
That is
of
an incredible
stuff.
amount of compost. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Do you think we should order more seed, or is it too late?
So, I mean, there's snow. I don't know.
Or put it down in the spring? That's a lot of compost.
Can I ask you, Alan, so does low mow include turning that grassland into perennial gardens? Or just mainly for keeping the grass?
No, we're trying to make it so that it's,
Pretty.
so that it has, a habitat for butterflies, you know what I mean? It's not just, I don't want just grass there. I'm kind of
Right.
hoping that I can turn it into a field that, basically that we,
Low maintenance for.
well, there's low maintenance, but I mean, they're, because they path between it, but it also makes it really nice to walk in between is when there's all those beautiful wildflowers growing. But then also, you can see the barrier, right? And then that's all the old, growth. And hopefully, eventually, some of this will, the seeds will go into those. But yeah.
I'll see what the end of the year budget is and see if I can get more.
Okay.
Do you think you could fit more there?
Oh yeah, I got that whole thing.
Okay.
I had no idea he was putting down that much.
Yeah, I'll see
But-
what else we could
But
order.
that's good. So. And then I'll just talk about the composting. I'll just skip to me. So the
Mhm.
composting, so that is, so over on, we have it over in, by the senior center. And I was kind of hoping that we could get one on this side of the town. But they're just very busy. So I'm currently working with, St. Cattery School, and so we're gonna have one there. They have a garden there, so now I kind of just gonna merge out. So if you know any church or community or school, that is that would be interested in a composting bin and having their members, bring their compost when they come to church or to synagogue or to temple or whatever it is, then we should do it that way. So yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, Quiet Niskuna.
I don't really have anything. I mean, we still have our website.
And I would like to link it to the town, the CAC website.
Yeah, we can.
I
do
just
that.
renewed it.
Okay.
So that would be really great if we could do that.
Yeah.
And that way I could post updates. I mean, we update, John Marr updates it regularly. And I would like to also know when the purchase of the, battery operated leaf blowers and other equipment is completed, because then we can publicize that. We can update our little flyers that we do and maybe get some publicity through, the Gazette.
Okay. I'll check with Trish when she gets back in. I believe about 75% of it is delivered. We're just waiting on some of the electric pole saws, I think. I'm pretty sure we got all the leaf blowers.
So I thought, no, it was the lights that you told me, the lighting.
Yeah, they wouldn't approve the
approve that
lighting.
one. So it's saws and leaf.
We
blowers.
have electric pole saws, hedge trimming saws, leaf blowers, and some kind of a cutter,
Great.
pipe cutter thing.
Yeah, maybe then when that's like 100% complete, then we'll just go ahead.
Yeah, I
That way
should
we
have.
can put exactly all the details.
Yeah.
Exactly what's being, swapped out.
I wish I thought of it. We should have taken a picture of the first delivery when all the boxes were there.
That's okay. We can get some pictures when they're actually in use.
Yeah.
When they start using them. and
Okay.
Hopefully we'll get some. Cool.
I bet
Find out that
if you email Ray or text Ray,
He
and ask
could-
him to take pictures of of the guys, when they're using any of this so that we can publicize that, that we're using, that it's being used, that would be.
Yeah, I'll add, and maybe he can even take a picture if it was an impressive pile of boxes. I did not see it, so.
Yeah.
But I do know it got delivered, most of it.
Okay.
Did they use the entire amount?
We went we went $130 over or something, which we took out of our regular budgets. Yeah.
Okay, George is not here, but do we have anything to report on the wildlife corridors?
No, I just still need to meet with her.
Okay. And then the sustainability checklist,
It's basically, I mean, we can double check it. I think it's basically like done, but we
Yeah.
could double check it. I will send it to Harry's Automotive anyway, just so that they
Yeah.
can look at it and start thinking about it.
okay, great. Okay, the only other thing, and I don't know if I brought it up in this meeting last time, but I did run into Sarah Selleck, and she was from Ecos, and they have this pollinator garden that they have up at the town pool, and they're looking for additional places in the town to build additional gardens. I'm just bringing that up so we can put it on the record.
We should have her bring some of her flowers over to our giant pile of compost.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
She has a very set pattern.
Yeah.
Oh, she does.
She does, yeah.
So, no, so is that with them? Who's funding that?
I think it was, Ecos was putting it out, and they were putting out some sample gardens, but it was for homeowners to purchase. It was a kit.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that they have, because I've seen the ones around town with people who have done them with
Yeah.
with the signs, but I guess what I'm just saying is that the ones that are gonna happen around town, I just wanna.
I believe that Ecos was footing the bill on those.
Oh, okay.
And they were looking for some signage or something. They were in contact with, Ray.
I think they would also be, whoa, we are having crazy light.
Yeah.
They would partner with private homeowners to
Yeah.
put those gardens in their property too, which I think was hoping would make some money so that they could fund public gardens too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the impression that I was getting
Yep.
as well.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn if we have.
Are we gonna do this?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you told me to. Good, Ellen. You
Got you
Okay.
back there.
good. Thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate it. So Laura has given us a calendar for the next year.
Yep, and actually it's a pretty regular year. This year we had some things bump off. We can't have the first Wednesday in January because it's New Year's Day. So it becomes the 8th, and then in October I believe I moved it off of the first night of Yom Kippur. So there's only 2 times that it's the second week, and yeah, it seems reasonable.
Thanks for doing that.
Clark always starts it, and then I just adjust it.
Yay,
Mostly-
Clark.
So, do you want us to adopt the minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, adopt the calendar?
Yeah, we can still change them if we need to, but if you just want to take a quick motion and all in favor, that would be good.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt the calendar as is. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, with that business done, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Was that Joy that seconded? Was that Joy? Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Thanks, Clark.